Hello everyone and welcome back to another tutorial video. In today's video we're going to start looking at how to draw super muscular anime men. Okay, so for this we're definitely going to be pushing the exaggeration of our muscle groups. We might be pushing the boundaries on the anatomy a little bit just so we can really further enhance the sort of fantastical element of it. So this is good if you're trying to do like an action series, or you want to do like a fantasy series in which you've got a really muscular character going on. So there's ways in which you can implement these characters, but if you're doing like a slice of life, then it's a little bit harder to make these characters fit into that and not just be too jarring, but to each their own. So just like always, we've got a super low opacity construction line layer. If you're doing this traditionally, just draw super lightly. We're going to go ahead and draw a circle shape for our head. Doesn't need to be perfect. I can already tell I'm going to have to shrink my circle a little bit just so I have plenty of room on the page to work with. From there, we'll go ahead and use a ruler to construct our center line, which is key for building our character off of it for symmetry reasons, as well as getting the weight of our character right, so it looks like he's actually supporting himself. From there, just like always, we'll give our male character a generous jaw here, like so. And then, I guess I'll kind of make this somewhat symmetrical. And then from here, we're going to draw in our shoulder line, and we want the shoulder line to be about one jaw length below the chin, okay? Now, just like in our previous tutorial where we were drawing a muscular character, we want to make the ribs nice and wide, and that's going to give us a much larger frame to build off of, and we're going to further exaggerate the width of this compared to our previous muscular tutorial, okay? So it's going to be quite a bit outside of his head. And then we want very generous shoulder circles, almost the same size as the skull, okay? Like so. From there, about a head height below the base of our ribs, we can put in the hips, and here, just like on all of our male tutorials, we're going to keep the hips just inside the widest point on our ribs, and I'm not super concerned about the shape of this little hip placeholder, but we'll just put this in here. This section right here is the hip bone that's visible, so it's not going to be moving around. So we'll do that. I'm going to recenter mine a little bit. There we go. Like so. Okay. And then from there, we can go ahead and just connect these. So following this rib down to about the middle point here, and then we'll just connect it. So just like on all of our previous tutorials for our men, we don't want to over exaggerate the hourglass figure here, but we just want a little tiny one. And then the hips will just bump out ever so slightly, but not anything too crazy. Okay, and then from there, we'll have these slight V lines, which will frame the abdominal wall here, along with a mark there to show the base of the ribs. Do that, like so. And then from there, we'll go ahead and I'm going to really open the legs up on this one, just so we have plenty of room for the muscles of our character, okay? So I'm going to do this, then roughly about halfway we'll put in some generous ovals for the kneecaps, and then we'll put in the ankle joints about one jaw length above our floor. And then I'm just going to draw super simple foot placeholders, like so. Okay, so from here, this is when it's time to start constructing some of our muscles, okay? So just like on all of our male characters, we've already went through that there's, a couple heads of the quad here that's going to be visible. One of them is going to be sticking way out to the side here, okay? The thickest point from the front is going to be this outside quad, okay? So we're going to keep it nice and thick out here, just above the knee. And we really want to exaggerate the rounding and overall size the more muscular our character gets, okay? So we want to kind of keep it slightly angled, but still focus on really capping the muscle belly. So we want it to be kind of round and sinking in, okay? It'll be easier to see once we get to the line art portion, so for now just bear with me. And then from here, again, same idea. This quad head kind of comes up and it almost looks like it connects up to the hip in there. So we'll just do that like so. And then following our center line down a bit like this. And so this, what you're seeing here, is like basically some of the main meat of the hamstrings and abductors and stuff. So it's not his glutes, but it's just his legs are so muscular that there's just no way for there to be a thigh gap there. So that's why we want to keep our legs out to the side here. From here we can give the knee joint, and we can make the knee joints a bit bigger than what we would normally see on some of our other characters. And then again, some super exaggerated quads. There we go. That's a good representation of it. So you want it to be rounded, but you don't want it to look like a soft curve. Okay, you want it to be kind of a rigid, somewhat angular curve. So do that like so. And then just establish the base of the hips there. And again, we can keep our knee joints a bit wider than what we would normally do. But then following the same rules as always, the inside of the calf muscle here is going to be a little bit less thick than the outside. But then on this character, we'll actually further define the muscle group that just kind of rests right on top of the shin. It's not a super major one, so we just kind of want to express lightly that there's something there, but we don't want to just super over define it, okay? And then we'll do the same thing over here, just like this, keeping this outside calf a little bit bigger. And then we can bring up this muscle group right here, just kind of giving some lines to let us know it's there. And put in our ankles. And then from here, we can put in the arms. And I'm just going to have them sticking out to the side, so that way we can kind of better see the lats of our character. Because the bigger the lats get, the more it's going to kind of push the arms out. They're not going to be able to just rest right up on the side. Now, he's definitely posing a little bit here. You know, he's got his arms straight out to the side a little bit. So he's not just fully resting. But what I like to do is put in the wrist joints just below the hips here. And then kind of just beneath our rib line here, we'll put these in. Because on our more muscular characters, where you're kind of exaggerating the overall physique and stuff, it can be really tough to line up like this line here. Because typically on a regular character, we would put the joint like right here. But this guy's got so much muscle that everything's getting pushed out and exaggerated. So it's a little bit tricky to get these parts here to line up and look correct. So we're going to kind of just go off of just the overall look of the character and get it to look right. So for this, we just kind of want to get it so his arms don't look super stubby. So what we'll do is I will bring up the wrists just a little bit. And then what we can do is bring in our shoulders. So super jacked character is going to have capped shoulders here. So they're going to kind of stick way out, and then they'll kind of sink in. So it's like almost a shape like that into the collarbone, okay? But we'll still follow the top of the shoulder and just merge it with our collarbone. Trying to keep the top here a little flat, but not super flat. So a little bit of a rounding there, but not too much, okay? Like so. And then from there, give him super big chest. Like this. And then a little bit of separation. Right here, I'm going to kind of move this line, it's in the way. Little tiny bit of separation in between each pec muscle here. Nothing crazy. Do that. This chest needs to come down a little bit, this pec. Right here. And we don't want the chest muscle to kind of meet up right in the middle of this shoulder circle, but just inside of it, because a lot of the mass of our character is coming from just the outside head, or the middle head, sorry, of the delt. So it's kind of pushing everything out to the side. So it's not that his joints are just big, it's that the muscles resting on the sockets there are quite large. So because of that, this part here of the chest is going to relatively be in the same spot that it would always be, which is just kind of just inside of the center of that joint there. From there, we can give really exaggerated biceps, like so, with just the tiniest look of a tricep behind it. From there, okay, I guess my joints were fine where they were, so I'll move them back down. Then, just like always, we'll have just a nice bump here on the inside, but then the outside will be a little bit more of an exaggerated bump here, because that outside strap here kind of connects to the bicep, and so when he's doing curls, he's getting that one a lot bigger than this inside one, which is mostly just for like grip and stuff. And then we'll have a super simple hand, just a placeholder. And then we'll go ahead and do the same thing over here. Super exaggerating all of our muscle groups for our almost hulkish character. And kind of bring this in. And trying to keep some like somewhat rigid lines too. We want our character to look a little bit angular. You don't want to get so angular that it starts looking like an alien, but we don't really want him to look soft like what we would do for our female anime characters. So we'll do this. And again, not a hand tutorial, so I don't really care about the quality of the hand there. I'm just trying to put it in. Alright, and then from here, we'll come to about below the ribs and put in our lats. And on a character of this size, the lat is not just going to be a line. It's not going to just be a bump. It's going to sweep in like this, okay? So it's going to kind of pop out, come in, and then taper out, okay? So we'll do that. And then from there, give him a thick neck, pretty much in line with the section here where the jaw tapers into the chin, just like that. Adam's apple. And then super generous traps, okay? So I'll kind of connect these down a little bit like this. I don't want the traps looking like they are connecting to the lats here, because then it kind of looks like he's wearing a shield on his back. So we'll kind of move it just like that. Put in our ears. Alright, so I'll go ahead now and do the line art. I'm not real concerned about the quality of my line art, since I'm just trying to show you guys how to draw a character like this. So I'm not going to be worried about my lines intersecting and stuff. Just kind of drawing these in. I'm going to try to keep it at least somewhat symmetrical though, so it doesn't look like I just rushed through it or anything. But we'll put it in there and just try to find an order of operations that is most comfortable for you. So I like starting kind of with the shoulders here. Then we can come into the chest. Again, kind of giving it almost like a slightly rounded square look. And one of these days I could do a tutorial for a character that's not only super muscular, but then is like super striated, which would mean he's got like really low body fat percentage. So you'd almost look like a character out of Baki. So we'll give some generous biceps. See a little tiny bit of the tricep from the back, but not as much as you'd think. Just because when he's standing with his biceps kind of facing us, the arm looks a lot skinnier than it would from the side. Do the same thing over here. Just like so. Just like this. Again, not concerned about what my hands look like here. Oh, this hand is a little bit higher than the other, so it'll kind of make it a little bit more symmetrical. Do this. Okay. From here, we'll add in marks for our rib cage, like so. In fact, you could even like almost do like bumps like this for the ribs. So it's not that that is the ribs that you're seeing poke through. It's actually some muscles that run along the ribs there. So we'll build those up like so. We'll have the abs framed. Well, I'll do the framing in a second. We'll connect this down to our hip like so. Then we can frame our abs a little bit more accurately. The lowermost ab there. It's like kind of just like a flat wall of muscle right there. We can add in some definition. Add in our hips. We don't want to make these super wide. We don't want our male character to have super wide hips. But he's at low enough body fat percentage that we are going to see him poke out a little bit. Something like that. And add the base of the hip right here. And then, again, kind of keeping it somewhat angular like that. So we've got our two heads here. So we've got the outside head and then the inside head. They kind of run right up beside each other. And then we'll build off the inside here for the super thick portion of the hamstrings and the abductors. Then we'll do this. Connect them. Trying to keep it somewhat symmetrical here. It's like this. Have a nice generous knee line connecting to the inside. Then a little one on the outside just to show that it's there. Keeping our knee joint wider than what we would normally do. And then, again, keeping the socket of the ankle nice and wide as well. And then adding a little bit of definition here for where the muscles resting on top of the shin would be present. Our character's so built that even those have been built up a bit. And then our ankles. Do this. Super simple foot shape. Actually, we'll put in a line for the floor here and just build them off of it. Not a foot tutorial, so I'm not really concerned about what they look like. And then connect our lats. Again, using a shape like that. And I guess we can add some simple ear definition, even though it's not really important for what the tutorial is going over. But there we go. Okay, so I'm going to take a step back and make sure that my character is somewhat symmetrical, make sure that the muscle groups look right, and then I'll let you know what, if anything, I changed, and then we'll just give a final review. So I'll be right back. Alright, so really everything that I had to change is a couple of symmetrical issues, so I just kind of rounded this shoulder a little bit more, and then I brought this inside muscle up a little bit on this right side, and then made sure that this section here is a bit more symmetrical, as well as made this calf a little bit more even with this one. So really, I didn't have to change any proportions or anything, I just kind of made it a little bit more symmetrical. And in fact, I can see that this hand is a little too low compared to the other one. So we'll bring it up a little bit, like that. Alright, but basically that's what we want. So really just keep in mind, really keep the ribs nice and wide compared to what we would normally do, like in relation to the head. That way you have plenty of room to make a really jacked frame. You know, since you want to exaggerate the muscle groups for our super ripped character, you just want to make sure you give yourself a big enough frame to work off of. Otherwise, everything looks too compact, you run out of room to actually put the muscles in, and it just starts looking weird. So make them nice and wide, super broad shoulders. Don't be afraid to have really large shoulders. Like if you see some of the modern bodybuilders, like at a professional level, some of those people have shoulders that are basically the size of their head. Like, it's kind of crazy what the shoulders can do once they are at that level. Again, from the side, we're just going to barely see the tricep poking through, even though our character's got really big triceps. It's just at this angle, with the bicep sort of facing us, the arm doesn't appear to just be, you know, super, super big compared to what it would look like from the side, you know, because ultimately his bicep is almost as wide as his head. So obviously he's super muscular. Still keeping a little bit of an hourglass shape here, nothing crazy. Don't get your hips too wide, keep them kind of relatively the same width as your ribs. We still want to make sure they're wide enough that we have enough of a frame to build the legs off of, so it doesn't look like you've got like a tiny hip into a massive body into massive legs. You know, it starts looking really crazy really quickly. So we still want to make sure that they get wider than on our other male characters. And just remember, for the muscle groups, try to keep them a little sharp, a little angular, but just rounded enough that they don't just look like this, okay? But just keep at it, you'll get it eventually. Again, as I mentioned before, muscle bellies are different just based on everybody's genetics. So some people will have super long bicep bellies, like what this guy's got. Some people's will be shorter, and so they're going to actually end a little bit sooner, and there'll be a little bit more space before the tricep will actually like poke through. And then it's especially noticeable when they flex. So I'll definitely have a tutorial that shows different lengths of muscle bellies, so you can get a little bit more personalized with your character and kind of make them look different. But either way, that pretty much does it. And so hopefully you found this one helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.